Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday marked the 16th anniversary of the worst act of terrorism on American soil in a ceremony at the White House with a moment of silence at 8:40 a.m. local time, the time when the first airliner hijacked by al-Qaeda terrorists crashed into the World Trade Center in New York. Well, a second jet hit the second World Trade Center tower 23 minutes later, and the huge skyscrapers collapsed in flames and smoke soon afterwards. President Trump also attended a remembrance ceremony at the Pentagon, which was hit and badly damaged by another of the four commercial jets seized on that fateful day. The president spoke in remembrance of those who lost their lives on that horrific day.
Here on the west side of the Pentagon, terrorists tried to break our resolve. It's not going to happen. But where they left a mark with fire and rubble, Americans defiantly raised the Stars and Stripes, our beautiful flag that for more than 2 centuries has graced our ships, flown in our skies, and led our brave heroes to victory after victory in battle.
Well, as we have mentioned, 16 years ago, the U.S. Department of Defense came under attack. American Airlines Flight 77 was hijacked and crashed into the Pentagon, killing all passengers on board the plane and 125 people working in the building. VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb spoke with 2 men forever impacted by the attack. She brings us their story in their own words and takes us to the 9/11 Pentagon Memorial, built to honor those lost in a day that forever changed our world.
You know, I always feel like this is sacred ground. I stood here on September 11th.
You can see from some of the smoke that's coming up from behind me.
And to someone who lived through it, it's kind of a defining moment in your life.
Which would indicate that the entire plane crashed into the side of the Pentagon.
There were 184 people that were killed in the Pentagon, 125 in the building, and 59 on the plane. My brother-in-law, who's a DC homicide cop, was able to walk through the building because he knew people in the FBI. And he told us that we need to prepare for the worst because nobody was trapped in the building. If people hadn't gotten out by then, or within the first probably 4 or 5 hours after the attack, people weren't coming out.
And to see this building, which is such an iconic structure and almost looks like a fortress, to see part of it just crumble down into rubble and realize the number of people who died in the building and on the plane, it was one of those days when you could feel the world changing.
My brother Dave, my younger brother, was killed in the Pentagon on 9/11. I do this to honor my brother's memory and to honor all the people who died here, so we never forget them and remind people about what happened that day. When you first walk in, that is essentially the zero line. So you basically come up to, and it's got September 11th, 2001, the time of the attack, 9:37 a.m. The first couple of benches you see, and you start to figure this out, if this is 2001, you'll see a 1998 age marker there. You start to figure out that this was the 3-year-old little girl, Dana Falkenberg, who was on the trip with her parents and who died in the plane. And you can see that her bench is pointing toward the Pentagon, because when you go and read the name at the end of her bench, you'll see the sky in the background, which signifies that Dana died on Flight 77. This is actually my brother Dave's bench. It's on the 1961 age line, which signifies the year that he was born. And when I read his name and look and see the Pentagon in the background, that signifies someone who died in the Pentagon and in the building. The benches are also arranged according to the flight path of the plane into the building. You're kind of oriented to where the plane hit. The designers wanted a place like no other because 9/11 was like a day like no other. So it provides that for family members and visitors.
Well, VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb is standing by live at the U.S. military headquarters in nearby Arlington, Virginia. Carla, what a somber day today.
Absolutely, Vincent. A very somber day. President Trump telling people here that we are here to mourn those we lost, we are here to honor them, but we will never, ever forget them. And this was also a time where the U.S. military, which is headquarters here, showed its strength. President Trump saying that more than 5 million U.S. men and women had joined the armed services since the attacks on 9/11, and Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis saying that the U.S. military was not like seaweed drifting through the current, but was resolved and would not be scared by outsider attacks. He also pointed out that on September 11th, 2001, the United States came together and heroism abounded in New York, where more than 2,600 people were killed, in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where the plane went down after the passengers overtook the hijackers there, and here at the Pentagon, where 184 people were killed.
Now, besides the speech and the moment of silence, what else did the president do today?
Well, the president actually took some time to walk around and talk to the family members because this is their day. While the entire United States mourns the loss of the people who were killed, the family members are the ones most affected. And in fact, Vincent, that's why I'm talking to you here on this side of the Pentagon instead of the other side where the memorial is, to give the family members the space that they need to mourn. And just as the president is doing that, Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis is planning to send additional U.S. troops into Afghanistan. Afghanistan was where these attacks were planned, and there has been a 16-year fight to try to help the Afghan people retake their territory from the terrorists who have been planning attacks against the United States and other members of the West. And also, while all this is going on, the United States is fighting Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, and we just learned that the United States and the U.S.-led coalition has helped its local partners regain about 3/4 of the territory from the terrorists there, the same terrorists that also would like to attack the West.
Now, we know it's been 16 years, but it looks like every time this time comes around, it does actually bring up these very raw memories, right?
Absolutely. Very raw, very painful memories. This is a day that will not be forgotten, not here, not anywhere around the United States. This military is preparing that fight because of that day. The people, the family members here are mourning the losses lost that day, and it doesn't matter how much time passes, this day will always be remembered and will always be mourned.
Carla, thank you very much, as always. That's VOA's Carla Babb reporting live from the Pentagon.